So to begin, close my door. We will start on our backs, and if you'd like to have a blanket underneath your head to begin with, actually, let's do this. I thought it'd be kind of fun to work, as we work in the low back, we'll do a little bit of a tension up with the neck too. So essentially either end of the spine. And so to begin, let's go ahead. We can take our two fascia balls. If you don't have these or don't want to set yourself up like this, you don't have to. But if you have the two fascia balls and the blanket, and then we'll go ahead and do our little gentle pressure where we put the fascia balls up by the traps on your mat and then create a little roll with the blanket to support the neck. So there's just a little gentle pressure point right there on the trap. We carry a lot of our tension. Then we'll have our knees bent. Allow the knees to fall together a bit. And then you can either place your palms on your lower belly. Just notice how that feels, or you're welcome to open the mat a little bit of ways from you, palms up. Just notice what feels right. You don't have to analyze it or judge it. Just notice what allows you to settle in to our centering without the distractions in the body. Really, and once you've found your position, really invite the body to let go. Just relax and release, melt into the floor, be held by the earth. You might already notice areas in the body that are having a harder time letting go. And so take your breath there. So imagine the breath inviting that area to release a little bit more. Give it permission to let go of all that it's holding on to. Noticing our mental and emotional body, just kind of checking in with that layer of our being. You might notice if the facial muscles are tense, if we're thinking, we furrow the eyebrows. Just relax that, relax your thoughts. Notice the emotions that may be there today, what you're feeling, whether it's frustration or peacefulness or anything in between. Recognizing it, not having to fix or change it. Just honor your feelings, where you're at right now. And then noticing your sense of connection to your inner intuition or inner knowing, your inner guidance system. Noticing if through the day you're kind of just being led around without any kind of sense of groundedness and assuredness of your choices. Right? We can feel scattered, or like others are continuously influencing us, and this intuition is something that's really important to guide us to our own truth, to our highest purpose, and to any decisions we make in our lives. And so in this practice, by slowing it down or keeping the practice a bit slower, we can deepen that connection. Start to tune into your inner teacher. And it's from this place of listening. we do allow our choices to be in alignment with our truth, we can more easily remember our essence of peace and bliss. May you experience that in the practice today. Bring your awareness to your breath. And lately I've been giving you the option to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And or you can simply breathe through the nose in both directions. Play with that here, excuse me, and tune into what's really feeling nourishing to you this morning. So throughout the practice you can change it up, or you can stay with the exhale that you choose. The breath is becoming longer. You're extending it to about an 85% of capacity. Feeling the chest expand, and allow the belly to rise with each breath in and relax with each breath out. Full deep breathing. Experiencing the inhale as it moves in through the nostrils. See or feel that breath expand all the way out to fingertips, toes, and the crown of the head, saturating every cell of your being with oxygen, with the intention of healing. Each breath out, an opportunity to let go of any tension or anything that's no longer serving you. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then from here, let's go ahead and take our feet hip width apart. And you can decide if you're using the fascia balls to leave them there or move them out of the way if you'd like to. And arms by your side. We're going to just come into our very easy hip hikers or sliders. So in this practice, being that we're going to focus a lot around the low back, we want to warm up the sacrum too. So spending a little time here first, and we'll just gradually move into some bigger and bigger movements. As we start with these nice small warm-ups, you can notice what's going on in your low back. How's it feeling today? Really taking care to continue to listen to what it has to say. Bring that to center. Move into our hip pointers. Press into the right foot. Point up to the right hip bone up to the ceiling and back down. Kind of essentially pushing that knee away from you, and it comes back to neutral. Opposite cheek, opposite buttocks stays on the floor. Small mindful movements with the breath. And bring that to neutral. Just notice that you may have had one that felt better than the other, so you can go back to that one. Or you can go ahead and just alternate between the two if you want to. Do a few hip hikers and then move into a few hip pointers. Back and forth. Steady breathing, mindful movements. And then bring that to neutral, and now bring your feet and knees all the way together. Again, wherever you'd like to place your arms is fine. Keeping the feet planted, all 4 points of your feet, and just slowly rock side to side. Really small movement to begin with. So the edges of the feet stay in the floor. The mounds of the big toes stay anchored in the floor. Just right across the sacrum. Keep breathing. And then deciding if you'd like to make it a little bit bigger. We're still warming up, so I would refrain from bringing the knees all the way to the floor, even if you think you can. But we are letting the outer edges of the feet and the mounds of the big toes start to come up. So it's a very mild, gentle twist, kind of an introduction to twisting. We won't do a lot of twisting today. I'd like to focus a lot more in regards to direct low back care, hip flexors, the front of the thighs, the hamstrings, and maybe even a little bit through the IT band and hips. All of those play a big role in how our low backs feel. And then we'll bring that to center. Go ahead and remove my vegetables. And then we'll go ahead, take the feet out as wide as your mat, open the arms wide. Okay. So our double knee drop, release the knees to one side. So now that we've taken the feet and the knees fairly wide apart, it's a much gentler twist into the sacrum and low back. We inhale just the top knee, opening up the inner thighs as wide as they will go. Exhale, bottom knee eventually follows, and they both drop to the other side. Inhale, open wide, and exhale, release into the twist. In this movement, we can more easily connect the breath with the movement. So find that extended breath we began with, and coordinate the movement with the breath. Everything's very slow and mindful. When you've gone equally side to side, find your way back to center, knees upright. We're going to remove anything we have underneath our head. Off to the side. And we'll take some time playing with our various forms of a moving bridge. So feet are hip width apart and maybe 4 to 6 inches from the buttocks, your heels. Arms by your side, palms down. And the arms are fairly active, so they're not just kind of relaxed and hanging out here. They're actually pressing the full length of the arm and the palms into the floor. And then go ahead and just kind of roll side to side, drawing the shoulder blades flat onto the back, and you feel the shoulders open up a bit. Neck is neutral, or gaze is straight up to the ceiling, so the chin should feel fairly neutral. If you're releasing it into the chest, we are losing that curvature in our neck, or if we're jutting the chin way up to the ceiling, we're creating too much of a curvature. So find that neutral cervical spine. And then from here, go ahead and just slowly tuck the tailbone under, roll the spine up off the floor. Check this first movement out, what's feeling right for you and how high you want to lift. And then slowly roll back down and just see how that felt. So move slowly through this. You find your version of a moving bridge, inhaling as we lift the hips and exhaling as we peel, or rather roll the spine back down, vertebra by vertebra. Again, coordinating with your breath. Inhale up, exhale, release. Let's do about 3 more here. Just really taking our time. You come into that beginner's mind and just experience this as if it's your first time, noticing what the body is feeling, really paying attention to the coordination of the movement with the breath, inviting our very busy minds to come back to the moment again and again. And the next time that you find your way back down to our starting point, pause, breathe, and just feel the echo of the practice so far. And we're going to go ahead and move into single arm. So inhaling, hips up, right arm reaches overhead. And then exhale, lower the hips and that arm all the way back down. See if you can coordinate the arm completing its movement as the tailbone comes into the floor. So kind of timing this a little bit. Inhaling, hips up, right arm, left arm reaches overhead. Sorry, we're going to alternate. And exhale. Just going back and forth, alternating with the right arm and the left, coordinating with the breath, staying present, this moment, this experience, this movement, this breath. When you finish with the left arm, or you know you've gone equally side to side, pause in our neutral position again, our starting point. Feel the practice, and then we're going to come into our 3-part moving bridge. So here we go. Inhale, hips up, both arms, reach overhead. If you can make them all the way to the floor, whenever we have something with our shoulders or any tension in the neck, you can keep the arms straight up to the ceiling if need be, okay? And then on the exhale, we leave the arms where they are, but exhale and roll the spine back down. Nice stretch to the side body and shoulders. Inhale, back up. And now everything comes down together, hips and both arms. Okay, so let's go several more rounds, really taking our time. Inhaling, hips up, arms reach overhead as far as it's comfortable for you today. Wherever that is, leave the arms there and exhale, roll the spine back down. And then inhale, hips back up. And exhale everything down. Just go a few more on your own. It's okay if you change up the sequence a bit. Don't worry about it being perfect. Just coordinate your breath with a movement that feels good to you. It's all about self-care and nourishing the body, the heart, the mind. So that may look different to each and every person. Let's take about 2 to 3 more breaths, just depending on where you are, 1 full cycle through this. And then we'll pause once again to just feel the echo of the practice. Noticing the sensations. How's the body responding? Breath is continuously steady, extended. And then let's take a hold of our straps. Let's do a little bit of gentle stretching in the hamstrings. So we'll start with the right foot. Place the strap around the ball of the foot. And if your strap is long enough, you can slide the hands down and let the upper arms rest on the floor. Sometimes it creates a little bit more tension in the neck to be holding up a little higher up. That's up to you, you can decide. And we'll go ahead from here and just find the thigh perpendicular to the floor if possible. So if you're not able to straighten the leg there, go ahead and bend it a little bit and flex the foot, okay? If you can, we straighten from here. Notice the intensity of your stretch, okay? And if need be, go ahead and, or if you'd like to rather, go ahead and extend the left leg along the floor, okay? And then press the back of that left thigh, try to press it against the floor with an anterior tip of the pelvis. That's going to help it get closer. So if your low back is connecting into your mat, you're tucking under in a posterior tilt. Can you create a little space between the low back and the floor, lengthening that hamstring attachment into the glute? Both feet flexed. And breathe. Nice steady breath. We're just going to hold here and stretch. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Now let's take both ends of the strap in your right hand. Bend the left knee. So we're going to place that foot back in the floor. And we're going to open that right leg to the right, just a little bit into the inner thigh. And open the left knee slightly to the left, keeping the pelvis square as best you can. So notice if that left hip and buttocks want to roll to the right up off the floor. Try to keep them anchored. Pelvis square, and then just open that right leg. Feel the stretch to the inner thigh and the groin, and breathe. The farther away you bring the leg from you, it decreases the intensity of the stretch. The closer or up higher you bring it towards you, the more you're going to feel that. Okay, so just various ways to play here and explore. Nice, steady breathing. Just continue to focus in on that breath. Just take about 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then slowly bring that back up. Extend the left leg along the floor again. Both ends of the strap in your right hand, and draw the leg across the body, feeling that stretch to the outer thigh, down the knee, all the way up to the hip. And again, same thing. If you draw this leg farther away from you, it will take some of that intensity out. And then closer, up higher, you pull it and across, the more intense that is. Just feel that. Find a minimal stretch and breathe. And so our breath is such a wonderful indication as to the intensity in which we're finding something. The more intense something gets, our breath tends to become a little more shallow or more inconsistent. So really use that as a tool to indicate where you are. Take 1 more breath here. And draw that back up. And we'll go ahead and switch legs. So let's place the strap around the ball of the left foot. The right foot is in the floor. So we're going to keep the right knee bent for now. Begin with the thigh perpendicular. Just feel that stretch here. Okay. Notice how that feels for you. For those of you with tighter hamstrings, you're going to be bending the knees, your left knee, in order to find that thigh perpendicular. Okay. If you can straighten it, great. Flex the foot. Just notice how that feels. And then if you like, extend the right leg out along the floor. Notice what's going on in the low back. And once again, see if you can create a little space there. The intention is to see if you can get the back of the right thigh to connect into the mat. Slide your hands down the strap if there's any tension up by the neck and shoulders. And breathe here. And if you have really a lot of mobility in your hamstrings, then go ahead and start to pull the leg a little closer to you and see if you can still maintain that gentle curve in the low back. Or maintain that space. Inhale through the nose. Exhale either through the nose or the mouth, your choice. Slow and steady. Bend the right knee, place that foot in the floor. Both ends of the strap in your left hand. And then go ahead and start to open that leg to the left, right knee slightly to the right. Right, so we keep the hips as square as you can. Right buttocks and hips stay down. And just breathe here. Pull the leg closer to you or farther away for the stretch. You ready to feel? And breathe. Draw that back to neutral. Bring the leg back up to the ceiling. Take both ends of the strap in the right hand. Extend the right leg. And then draw that leg across the body, closer to you or away from you. Both feet flex and just feel that stretch to the outer thigh and hip. Your IT band. Just take a couple more breaths here. And then we'll slowly release that. Let's move the strap off to the side. And let's draw the knees into the chest. A little Apanasana, so connect our breath, exhaling as we hug the knees close. Inhaling, arm lengths away. Exhale towards you. And inhale, arm lengths away. So nice stretch through the low back. Release in the hamstrings. And then we can take this into some knee circles. Maintain that steady breathing. Make sure you circle both directions. And maybe even circle their knees wide and around. And then we'll go ahead and place the feet into the floor. Roll to one side. Come to a seated position just for a moment. Let's do a little bit with our necks. And let's just kind of see what's going on in the neck. So to begin with, we just very simply rotate the head right and left. And just kind of notice where you're carrying any tension, any tension, if any. Kind of noticing where your tightness may be. Release an ear to one shoulder. Just kind of feel that. Notice what's going on there on the other side. Just checking out where we're starting. Then we'll bring that back up. We're going to take our right hand to the edge of our head, the heel of our hand to the edge of our head. The head's going to rotate into the hand. You're going to look over the right shoulder, and the hand's going to press just enough to make it create an effort to turn the head. Right, so we're just resisting, and then we resist back the other way. The hand's pushing the head back to center while the head resists. Just 3 to 4 rounds, moderate pressure. We don't have to overdo this. And then after 4 rounds, switch sides, move to the left side, same thing. A little resistance, rotating to the left. Just really activating the fascia, working on opening or strengthening rather the muscles, the ligaments here. After 4 rounds there, we'll bring the heel of the right hand to the front corner of the forehead. Right? No, wait, what are we doing? And then rotate the ear towards the shoulder. I'm like getting confused here, but it still works. We're good. It's all good. Little brain fart movement. 4 rounds, ear, shoulder. And then we switch left ear to left shoulder. Keep breathing. Make sure you're pleased that your breath is flowing. No holding the breath. And then relax both hands after the last round. And then once again, just release the ear to the shoulder, both directions. Notice if there's been any shifting, turn the right and the left. And then back to center. So now let's go ahead and just find a stretch. Release the right ear to the right shoulder. Okay, so I'm going to add options and you decide along the way what's serving you. So if you'd like to take the palm of the right hand on top of the head, you can do that. We're not pulling down. All we're doing is just letting the hand rest there. And notice how that feels. And the next option is to hang the left arm, so we're not resting on the thigh anymore. The left arm hangs off the side, and you can walk that arm out to the side away from you a little bit. You really feel the stretch down the arm, into the shoulder and down the arm. So again, these are just optional additions. Decide whether that serves you or not. Find your stretch and breathe. And then release that. So bring the left arm back in, release the right hand. Head comes to neutral. Take a breath. And then right or left ear to the left shoulder. So we're feeling a stretch to the right side of the neck and into the right shoulder. Again, left hand can come onto the top of the head and just rest there if you choose. Please don't pull, but the weight of that hand is enough. And or right arm off by your side and walk it out away from you. Nice deep breathing. Walk that right hand back in, release the left, head comes back up right. And take a couple of breaths, just checking in once again, just noticing or feeling the echo of the practice, your choices. And then we'll go ahead and find our way to hands and knees. If you have 2 blocks with you, let's go ahead and place them on either side of your mat. As always, they're optional if you want to come to them in a moment. Placing the palms into the mat as wide as your mat. Knees are hip width apart and directly underneath the hips. From here, draw the navel to the spine. And let's do our cat-cow. Exhaling round. Release the head, tuck the tail. And reverse that, opening, softening the heart towards the earth as you lift the tail, lift the head. And exhaling round. Inhaling open. Breath and movement, just creating a beautiful length of movement through the spine, right? All the way from the base of the skull to the tailbone. And then from here, notice if it might feel nice to kind of move a little bit more creatively or asymmetrically, just kind of move side to side. Remember, if the wrists get tired, you can always come onto fists, just kind of break that up a little bit. You can take the hips and circle them around, big or small circles, up to you, right? So just, I'm making suggestions here, but really move in a way that serves you, whatever feels good. And in the next breath or two, finding your way back to center, back to just tabletop, curl the toes under, and take the sit bones high into the sky. Let's pedal out or walk out our down dogs, so pedaling the feet, shifting through the hips. And then go ahead and slowly come back down to hands and knees. And either drop back into a child's pose. You can stick a blanket back here if you need to, or come all the way onto the belly if the knees just won't allow this. And if you can, dropping back, bringing your forehead to your mat or even to your hands. Breathe deeply into the back body. So whether you've chosen child's pose or you're prone on your belly, the belly's compressed. And as you try to breathe into it, the low back and mid back make room for the expansion of the breath. Inhaling through the nose. You either are exhaling through the mouth or through the nose as well. And then we'll come back to hands and knees. Let's just do a few slow rounds of our mini flow. So when you're ready, on an exhale, release into down dog. And then inhale back to knees. Exhale, child's. Inhale back to hands and knees. Maybe it would feel nice to even lengthen the heart forward. Exhale, down dog. So support your low back, keeping the core engaged. And so we draw the lower abdominal muscles towards the spine so that our low backs are supported. We're never dumping into the low back. Inhale to knees and alternately exhale between down dog and child's at your own pace. I am going to encourage you to keep that breath extended and the movement slow. Let's go one more round. Pausing in down dog. So whenever you get to Adho Mukha Svanasana, just pause here. Bend the knees, right? Especially if you know you have tight hamstrings, and then take the tailbone like you're trying to create a back bend. Bring the tailbone high into the sky. Shoulders are broad, away from the ears, really emphasizing a lengthening of the spine as opposed to trying to get the heels in the floor. Let that go and really feel the spine lengthen. The heart softens towards the thighs, head's relaxed, arms are strong. Just take another breath or two here. Either from down dog or come to the knees first. We're going to look up between our hands and bring our left foot forward. So you can do that from hands and knees if you'd like. Then we're going to take our blocks on either side of our foot here, shoulder width apart. If you're choosing to use them, you don't have to. And then from here, just rocking front to back. So exhaling as we draw back, we work towards straightening the left leg, just kind of feeling a stretch of the whole length of the leg there. And then inhale forward, softly releasing into the front hip flexor. And we just move back and forth. This is a way of communicating to the body and where we're going, and as well as for you to hear what the body has to say, what's going on in these areas, because they affect our low backs. So just kind of noticing, take note if your hamstrings are really tight. Do you also are you challenged by low back stuff off and on, and or the hip flexor, if that's really tight. Hip flexors can get really tight if we do a lot of sitting. And the next time we come forward, we're going to go ahead and come into a stretch for the hip, and then we'll come into the hip flexor. So I'm going to take the palm of my left hand to the outer edge of my left knee, and I'm going to press that knee into the hand into the knee, And then come back again. So just like we did with the neck, just resistance stretching 4 rounds, rolling to the outer edge of that left foot and resisting the coming back to center. And then after 4 rounds, roll that out and just hold in the stretch. We don't necessarily have to be dropping into this hip flexor yet. We're just opening that left hip a little bit, IT bend. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and bring that back to center. Both hands can remain on the blocks. And then we're going to go ahead and isometrically pull the left heel, right knee, like you're trying to bring them together. And then from there, just softly release into your hip flexor. Find the stretch that feels right for you, moderate to mild. Okay, so just be very gentle. And breathe. And then we'll release that, rock back, bring the blocks with you. You can continue to reach forward over this front leg if you want, or you can simply bring the blocks back a bit. Let the toes come off the floor and just find a stretch here. Tip that pelvis again, that anterior tip of the pelvis. So we lengthen that hamstring attachment. That may mean for some of you bending the knees when you feel that. Take care of yourself and breathe. Bring the blocks back towards the front of your mat, but off your mat, off to either side. And come to hands and knees. And we're going to take just 3 to 4 breaths here. You decide whether you want to simply drop onto the belly or back into child's pose, or cat-cow would feel good, or down dog would feel good. Just 3 to 4 breaths in a way that feels right for you before we come to the other side. And then either from down dog or from hands and knees. Right foot steps up, left knee down. Bring the blocks to the edge of your mat. Okay, and then again, we'll begin with the lunge rock. Right, so inhale, we lift the head and the heart. Exhale, we rock back, folding over the front leg. So we're moving outward energy or extending or have expansiveness when we come forward, a sense of contraction or drawing inward as we go back. So throughout the practice of yoga and the asana practice that we're doing here, there's the obvious physical parts that we experience, right? Along with these poses, there's also an energetic and an emotional component to every pose. That's why sometimes we can be in a pose and we burst into tears all of a sudden, or something like that. It happens, and we don't always understand why, but there's a lot of energy getting moved in each of these poses, and they're all different. So go ahead and come forward into this lunge. We're not really releasing into the hip flexor yet. Stay a little more neutral, right palm, outer right palm to the knee. And then go ahead and, I'm gonna move that off to the side a little bit. We're gonna roll to the outer edge of that right foot, press the knee and the hand into the knee, and just move back and forth about 4 times. Keep breathing. And then we'll come in and hold for a stretch. I have some resistance as I'm have my knee in my hand. There's a little bit of resistance, and I'm just opening that leg out. And I can really feel this outer hip and IT band activated. Core is strong, breath flowing. And then we'll bring that back to neutral. From here, go ahead and isometrically pull the right heel, left knee, try to pull them together, and then release into the hip flexor. Breathe. And then go ahead and release that stretch. Rock the hips back. Either lean forward on the blocks, folding over that leg, or walk the blocks back with you a bit. Toes come up off the floor. Instead of tucking the tailbone under, reverse that, lengthening into a neutral spine. Core is engaged. And breathe here. Go ahead and release that. Move the blocks off the mat. Find your way to hands and knees. Again, 3 to 4 breaths. Your option to either find a pose you want to drop in and hold, or maybe you want to walk this out in down dog. Okay, so just 3 to 4 breaths on your own. Trust that guidance. What would feel nice to you? And we're going to go ahead and come on up and find a seated pose. Okay, and I'm going to grab a bolster. Now you don't have to. You know, if you don't have a bolster, don't worry about it. But if you do, it might be kind of nice. So we're going to find a straddle. Okay. So for some of you, if your inner thighs are particularly tight, you're not going to start as wide. You're going to have your legs a little more narrow, yes? Also, you might consider either pillows or blankets or your fascia balls underneath your knees. That's kind of nice, but it's up to you, okay? if you need that, that can be a really nice release. So you don't have to use the bolster. We can stay right here in a seated straddle. Matter of fact, you could use a block. Some of you might be able to, we're going to keep the kneecaps up to the ceiling, feet flexed. Okay, so it's an active pose. Some of you might be able to lean forward, keep the spine long, lead with the heart, and this might be a nice pose for you, but this is pretty intense for a lot of people. Okay, you can stay here and just rest the hands here. I just find the block out in front is kind of nice as opposed to trying to do something here with them. But what I'd like to show you, and I'll show you this from a side view. Right, so I find my straddle and I take the bolster at an angle out in front of me. So I'm trying to keep my spine as tall as I can. I don't want to end up collapsing here. So the spine's tall, kneecaps up, feet flexed, and then you can lean forward onto the bolster. This is really nice. It keeps you up a little higher, so it keeps the intensity of the stretch minimized a bit. And it's also nice, I always find that anytime we can lean our third eye against something, it can help to quiet the mind a little bit. Okay, so if you have one of these, you're welcome to use it, but again, it doesn't have to be. You can get just as much benefit of the pose without it. And then go ahead and just breathe here. Core is gently engaged. Breath is steady. Let's take about 4 to 5 more breaths here. And we'll go ahead and slowly come up out of this pose. Bring the legs together. Shake that out a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead now and we're going to find our supine bound angle. So when we find this pose, it's out of the way here. We're going to be placing items underneath our knees, right? We're going to lie on our backs, bring the feet together, let the knees open. So I just invite you to make sure that whatever you are using underneath the knees is equal size, so that in the creation of this pose, the knees are equally lifted. So it's not like one's lifted higher than the other. Okay, so we want to find a position that's comfortable for both. Okay. Right, so I'm going to place a blanket underneath my head. This is the way I like to do this. And then take 2 blocks at an angle level 2. The closer you bring the blocks in towards you, the higher the knees will be. The more I draw them out closer to the knees, the more open the legs will become. And then if we look at the feet are together. The closer the heels are towards the groin, that can be a bit more demanding on the knees. So if you bring them a little farther out, that might feel safer to you. Okay? So all these different ways to settle in, and then finding a neutral low back. You don't even have to use anything underneath your head if you'd prefer not to. And then place your palms on your belly. Let the upper arms rest on the floor. And take a moment here to settle in with the breath. Make any last minute adjustments if you need to. So we would consider this a restorative pose, which means there shouldn't really be any stretch. We're so supported, the body can just melt into the props. And there isn't any kind of a stretch involved here. It's just a very deeply relaxing position. And then from here, you can begin to breathe into the belly, allowing the belly to rise and fall with each breath. We're going to take at least another minute here. When the mind wanders, come back to the breath. Using the breath as an anchor for the mind to keep it in the present moment. slowly draw the knees closed, remove the items that you had underneath. Just draw the knees into the chest. Coming into our Apanasana once again. We're going to do some of our warm-ups now as releases. We can kind of check in and just notice how the body's feeling in these same movements now and over an hour later. Try some knee circles, both directions. And then go ahead and place the feet into the floor and come into our hip hikers or sliders. And then move into some hip pointers. And then alternate between these two or go back to your favorite one. Just 2 to 3 breaths. And then from here, find your way into Shavasana, extending the legs along the floor, placing something underneath the knees is very helpful for the low back. So if you'd like that, place a rolled blanket or a pillow underneath the knees, allow the feet to splay open. If any of you do have low back issues, especially at night when sleeping, you should sleep on your back with a pillow underneath your knees. And then we open our arms out from our side, palms up, draw the shoulders back. Take a moment for any last minute adjustments, and I'm going to take you through a very general relaxation of Yoga Nidra points. And so as I name the points of the body, that's an invitation for that area to relax even more. Allowing the body to become heavy. Drop into gravity. Be held by the earth. Once you've settled in, bring your undivided attention to the brow center, the area between the eyebrows. Feel that area relax. Pit of the throat, right shoulder, right elbow, right wrist, right thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, right wrist, right elbow, right shoulder, pit of the throat, left shoulder, left elbow, left wrist, left thumb, second finger, third, fourth, pinky, left wrist, left elbow, left shoulder, pit of the throat, middle of the chest, right side of the chest, middle of the chest, left side of the chest, navel point, middle of the pubic bone, right hip, right knee, right ankle, right big toe, second toe, third, fourth, and baby toe, right ankle, right knee, right hip, middle of the pubic bone, left hip, left knee, left ankle, left big toe, second toe, third, fourth, baby toe, left ankle, left knee, left hip, middle of the pubic bone, navel, heart center, pit of the throat, third eye. Bring your undivided attention to the third eye. Imagine the breath moving in and out of the third eye. Feel the third eye breathing. Imagine this breath from the third eye moving into the midbrain. Each inhale from the third eye to the midbrain. Each exhale from the midbrain back to the third eye. You don't necessarily have to deepen the breath here. It can be very quiet. Just feel the breath moving between the third eye and the midbrain. next inhale, as you breathe into the midbrain, feel, see, or sense a light, a golden light in the midbrain, filled with all the healing energy you need, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And as you breathe with that light, feel it getting brighter and bigger and expanding. And take that image and move down through the brain, down through the neck. It's going to travel all the way down through the spine very slowly. And as it does so, feel that light, that energy, that healing energy expand out as well as down. So it's saturating every cell of your being out to the tips of your, all the way down the length of the arms to the tips of the fingers, through the waist and pelvis. Continues to give and give all the way down through the low back and the legs and the feet, until your whole being is this golden light of well-being. Allow yourself to rest in this golden light for one more minute. Take this moment to thank that golden light for all that it gave you, all the healing energy that it filled you with. Deepening your breath as you thank yourself for showing up in this practice for you today. And thank the practice for all that it gifted you with. Resting your heart in gratitude. Begin to wiggle some fingers and toes, maybe stretch overhead. Roll to one side. Find your way to seated, bringing your palms together at your hearts. May this practice support you through the rest of your day today. And thank you for allowing me to take the seat of teacher. Namaste.